We are already live with quite some of the participants of our panel discussion. We're waiting for 2 more people, so please give us some time and stay tuned. Meanwhile, I'd like to say thank you for joining Mage Stack Day. It's pretty cool to have so much people again on board and answering questions with us and voting and closing and being active on the platform. That's really, really cool. And as you can see, the Slack channel is crowded. There's so much going on Twitter, and we are really happy to see you're that active. Maybe I also can say a few thank you words to our sponsors. So we have several sponsors for the 5th Mage Stack Day. So first of all, there is Aspiration Hosting, who sponsored really nice stickers for our sticker ambassadors. So check out our stickers website on the magestackday.com website to get your sticker. Then another sponsor is Meet Magento, who sponsored 2 Meet Magento tickets for a location of your choice, as well as Magento, so you can win Fundamentals of Magento 2 development course. That's also pretty cool. We're gonna give the prizes away like during Mage Stack Day. We'll see whenever we find time to. So stay tuned on Twitter and on the Slack channel. And we'd like to give also some shout-outs to people who supported us. So there is, first of all, the guys from Mage Talk, who always do some very good promotion for us, and also from the London meetup group. They were also sending out a lot of emails to their members. Then we got a really nice infographic from MSD this time again. Really, really cool, where all the facts about Mage Stack Day are in. And a big thank you to all the Magento StackExchange moderators. Actually, 2 of them are already here, and we're waiting for the 3rd one. And also, very special, for the first time, the Magento forums are on board. So thanks a lot to Sherry. She also set up a special badge which you can get when you answer forums, when you answer questions on the Magento forums. That's really, really cool. So, hi to all the participants of the panel discussion. Anyone likes to say something right before we start?
We've come a long way.
Yeah. Actually, when we started this, I never thought we were going to have 5 Mage Stack Days at one point. Yeah, well.
We don't.
4 for the insiders.
I was going through, like, I just wrote a blog post, and I was going through some of the history just to kind of, thought it would be good to kind of capture where we've come from, and it was, I'm sitting there going through, and I'm like, wait, I can program complex e-commerce applications, but I can't seem to count to 5.
Yeah, so actually, Mage Stack Day became really, really professional, and it's great to see how it evolved. So we have a new website actually this time. For the first time, it's not running on Magento. Woo! My God. We've got a lot of participants again. A lot of sponsors jumped on board. That's also very cool. We didn't have that for the first one, especially because nobody knew how it's going to be, right? But it worked out pretty well. So let me just see where the people are.
How many do we have watching?
Sander, can you answer this? Oh, by the way, Sander Mangel, who is not on the live stream yet on the video, is doing the technical stuff behind all these discussion. So, hi, Sander.
He's currently running in the hamster wheel.
Yeah. Let me check how many people are watching.
I think everybody's watching. I'm just looking at the game, Spain against Turkey, and there's nobody at the stadium. Everybody's watching the match stack day panel discussion. So
we should probably discuss something. Sorry, everybody. So what? Let's go through the panel then. What do we think about? Let me find. Where is this window? There we are. So what do you all think about? What do you all think about this thing that I just noticed today, which is that Magento StackExchange now has more questions than there are Magento-focused questions on Stack Overflow? Anna, we'll start with you.
Can you repeat what kind of questions that was? I didn't get that.
So the question is, how do you feel? What do you think? Or what statements do you have regarding this fact that finally, since its origination, you know, what was that? At the end of 2012, when did this get proposed? Yeah, the end of 2012. So basically, since you know, 3.5
January,
years.
3 years ago.
Yeah, so about almost 3.5 years ago, we now have more questions on Magento StackExchange than we have Magento focused questions on Stack Overflow.
I see. Wow. Well, that's huge, I think, because Stack Overflow has been there for a while. Actually, I'm not really sure when Stack Overflow was established. You know, when Stack Overflow went online?
2008. Yes.
Wow. I mean, that's like.
And the first Magento question. So I think there were over like 16 million questions, but the first Magento question was asked in September of 2008, and it was funny. It was a general PHP question, but then the person like asking the question was like, "Oh, by the way, yeah, this is Magento."
No, that's wow. That's amazing, I think. I mean, that's so, like, yeah, it just justifies why we have our own platform on the StackExchange network, right? We have so much traffic there, so many active people and questions. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
What do you think, Mr. Schmengler?
Yeah, I have no idea how the numbers looked like before, but it's really impressive, given that Stack Overflow was there when Magento launched without any documentation, and so there's probably lots of questions from that area, and we topped that. That's great.
Yeah.
And I think nowadays you get better answers on Magento if you are on Magento StackExchange than you are on Stack Overflow.
Yeah, I would agree, especially for Magento 2. It seems like most of the Magento 2, the people who are familiar with Magento 2 are asking those questions, are present on Stack, Magento StackExchange. What do you think about that, Mr. Rockstar Marius?
Haha, very funny. Well, it's normal. That was bound to happen at one point because the word spread out that there's a website for Magento. A lot of questions got migrated from Stack Overflow to Magento StackExchange, and it was bound to happen. So it's not a big surprise. But yay!
See, that's what I was going for. That's the reaction I wanted. And actually, if you look today, I mean, I actually closed the tab. But it's a real simple query. You can actually go to stackoverflow.com and you can search for, I think it's, you just enter into the search Q&A box. It's just is:question and then just the word Magento with a space, and you get the number of questions. And there have been, it looks like, if we go to the newest here, there have been, you know, dozens of questions asked there today. So people are still ending up on Stack Overflow and asking Magento questions, which is interesting to me. I actually would have expected that to disappear I would expect that to be a trickle, but it looks like a lot of people are still ending up there. And it looks like, I'd have to run some numbers here, but it looks like I see some new users in here, new to Stack Overflow. I don't know if they're normally, some of them seem to have a broader focus than just Magento, so I think that makes sense. That they might ask that actually in a broader context. Like I see a question here about Excel and Magento and Google Apps, which actually may not even belong on Stack Overflow. But yeah, it would be really interesting to dig into the kind of data and see how this stuff has changed over time. And for those of you watching at home or at work burning your corporate dollars, you should, if you're not familiar with it, you can actually get some really cool data. If you're ever wondering what kind of questions are being asked, or community size, or how many people have problems relating to, I don't know, customers and Magento, you might get some of that data from the StackExchange query engine, which is a model of transparency and usability for the users. Now, I don't want to leave out the last person I haven't asked here. Raphael, what do you think about all of this exciting news here today?
I'm kind of a newbie with Magento StackExchange. I only became active in February, so it's kind of new for me. I've been a lurker forever. I've been lurking around, but yeah, I didn't know there was that many Magento questions in the original Stack Overflow website.
Now,
so, yeah, surprised by this number.
Now, I like how you just sort of subtly drop that you really just kind of started picking up this year. I'm looking at your user profile here. Sir, do you know that you are the person who has actually kicked me out of the top 10 users of all time on
did I?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. That's right. I mean, since Magento StackExchange, since Mage Stack Day has started, I haven't even gotten so much as an upvote yet. Oh my gosh.
So yeah, I'd be interested. I got one question. Do you know who was the first person who posted the first Magento question in Stack Overflow? You mentioned it earlier, but do you know the person?
I don't know them. I don't know him or her personally. Let me actually pull up. So I just dropped a blog post on my blog, not on someone else's blog. And in this blog post, I actually did link to what I'm considering to be. I mean, I didn't go exhaustive, but I did drop a link to the first Stack Overflow question. And it was from September 2008. How might I pass variables through to cached content in PHP? You can see Magento usually I think it's rare that Magento questions are ever simple. You usually have to consider a lot of different things. But it was Brian Reindell, and I don't know much about Brian. Brian doesn't seem to have much information available, US based. Actually, it's possible that I have met Brian. I meet thousands of people every year, and you never know. So he has a. So it's tough to.
And what about the first Magento StackExchange question?
So the first Magento yeah. If we go if we go to sort by 50, how do I sort Magento? Oh no, that doesn't count. That was, I think, probably transferred over I bet that was migrated. Yep, from Stack Overflow. Looks like the first one here that I'm seeing is authorize.net, authorize and capture versus authorize only. So payments question from Jeremy 1026. Yeah. And that was in January of 2013.
Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty. Wow, that's pretty incredible. and we've just grown since then. Now, again, I haven't been digging in, to sort of exhaustively know things, and there may be some things that I'm failing to consider. Like you see, if you go to, you can see if you go to magento.stackexchange.com/questions. Yeah, all I'm doing is I'm just sorting by newest, and then just going to the very last page. And you can see that that first question that comes up actually was migrated. It's from 2011, but it was migrated over from Stack Overflow. So somebody was probably doing some anthropological spelunking over on Stack Overflow and bounced that over to us.
I'm pretty sure you can change the question number in the URL.
You can, well, you can, but post, I think, so essentially Stack, if I remember correctly, Stack actually numbers all content. So sort of every user post, whether it's a question or an answer, is done sequentially. Now you might have things some things might get completely deleted, but so you may go from, like, the first question asked may be ID number 3, and then you go and you look at the very next question asked, and it could be ID 5 if there have been a few, like, answers posted to the first question. It's an interesting setup. That's why I really like digging around the Stack the StackExchange query API, and you could do this across their entire platform. I mean, it's really it's
yeah, I love the API.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. In fact, I think
useful.
Anna's done some really cool stuff with data and helping us visualize exactly, using some cool graphs, helping us visualize how things have changed over over time, especially during Mage Stack Day. And I remember, actually, Anna, you're from the first Mage Stack Day. You did a really you actually put together this graph that showed all these different lines of, like, how we were affecting the numbers, like, right then, and that was actually really inspiring. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? You're going to need to come off mute, though. Hello, Anna? No. You're on mute.
Oh my God! Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
I'm sorry, my laptop crashed. That happens when you do live conferences. So thanks, Ben. I'm not quite up to date what you've been talking while I was away.
I can tell you, we were talking about how we were just kind of going through some of the old posts at Raphael's suggestion, and then we were talking about the Stack query API, and then I remembered, like, being one of the things that was really inspiring with regards, like, specifically to Mage Stack Day, was how you put together, that great graph that showed all of the different, the trending of all the different categories, answers and questions over time, and that was really inspiring. And I just wanted to see if you could kind of talk more about that.
Yes, I can say a few words about that, but first, let me just give a few like, up-to-date information to our viewers. Actually, we don't know when the last 2 people we're missing will join, so we decided we can just start with the discussion on moderating as soon as we want. Let me first maybe say a few words about the data graph. That's from the public StackExchange API, so it's just a cron job that fetches the data every 30 minutes, and it was really impressive to see the output, the outcome we had from the Mage Stack Day. So you could really see there was all the graphs went going up and down, and the kind of impact Mage Stack Day had. So this is really cool, and it's also still available on magestackday.com/statistics if someone wants to have a look. I just limited it to 2016 for now. Otherwise, the graph takes too long to load. Page load times and so on. But I can, of course, recover it. I have all the data from the first Mage Stack Day and on, so we can get all the data we want. So to start with the moderating discussion that came up, actually, it's actually really sad that Phillip isn't here already, because this is kind of how it started. So
typical Phil.
Yeah. So there was a tweet from Phil where he said, "It makes me wonder if we're at the point where Mage Stack Day hurts more than it helps because the term cleanup in Scintillate, it's dirty to begin with." And actually, that was really interesting because when we started with Mage Stack Day, we found out there were so many questions that needed really to be cleaned up. That's why we named it this way, and we kept going with the term for like nearly 2 years now. So this is all about the moderating discussion that came up. I think we had a lot of discussion about third-party questions. This is one of the biggest topics we can talk about today, and also voting behavior of people. So maybe we can start with questions that are on topic and off topic on the platform. Maybe Ben, you as a moderator, you want to start, and Marius maybe first, as you will see, I guess, most of the questions on there and what's happening with them.
I think I will defer to Marius.
Ben, you can start. Your voice is nicer than mine, and
but I don't have that just gorgeous sort of Romanian inflection.
What inflection? I don't understand.
I'll resist any sort of Transylvania Dracula voicings. Now, what do you think? So, did you? I think so. Yeah, Marius and Phil and I, we all hopped on a call yesterday, I think it was, and to get into. I actually had somehow missed this tweet storm. I think I was probably coming back from Meet Magento Serbia, and yeah, when I went and read, I saw it and I said, you know. Phil is, I think Phil does a pretty good job of contemplating things, you know, and he's obviously, he can get topical, and that's one of the things he does well. It's one of the reasons Mage Talk is such a successful production, that and Kalen's propensity for naps, so he's not there to screw it up. Phil, yeah, so the point, this idea that Mage Stack Day is all about cleaning up. I mean, that is valid. I think kind of Anna, as you were saying, that's kind of at the roots. So back in the day, if you haven't read my excellent blog post, your numbers help my salary. If you haven't read it yet, probably the thing to do is you can go through part of it, but really the summary is that we had a very long beta. Right, so stepping back to the beginning. I'll just read my blog post. No, I'm kidding. Stepping back to the beginning, we had what we were doing was just trying to get this thing kicked off at all. And actually, I didn't put this in the blog post because it was just a little bit too much information. But I went and there already had been proposed a Magento-specific StackExchange site, and I want to say it was my good buddy Vinay Kopp. Who had said that it had been proposed or something. That's my memory anyway. But so I went to this place called Area 51, so it's area51.stackexchange.com, and this is where people can propose new sites. And if you go through there, you can actually see that a lot of proposals are dismissed or closed right away because they're either just so obviously that they're so narrowly focused that they're unlikely to get any really get any traction, or they kind of compete with some other site already in place. Now there's a few exceptions, and they try and make decisions on these things, sort of looking holistically at the overall StackExchange network. There's a few exceptions, and there's a few sort of exceptional things about some sites, but when I restarted the proposal, it started to get traction. I was super excited, and then they shut it down. And Robert Curtano, one of the community managers at Stack, came in and he actually contacted me and said, "Hey, sorry, this is an old proposal that just didn't make it. So if you want to just restart it." And I said, "Okay." So I restarted it, and it basically happened quickly. Now, in the meantime, just like in a matter of days, we shot through the number. Basically, there's several incremental steps. There's sort of certain milestones that you have to hit. in order to for the site to make and move to a point where it can attract broader use and attention from the public. So what happened was we got things going really quickly, and in the meantime, I think it was Robert Corteno again reached out to me and said, by the way, we're on the fence about this. It's kind of dubious whether we're going to allow this thing to happen or not, because as you know, there's a huge Magento sort of tag or activity around the Magento tag on Stack Overflow. So we think the stuff's found a pretty good home there. And I kind of pleaded the case. Now, and keep in mind, like, this is before I joined Magento as an employee, so I'm still wasting all the Blue Acorns money doing this stuff. Thanks, Kevin. Basically being able to go back to him and say, look, my inspiration for this is that Magento is not just about development. There's actually there are varying degrees of crossover with users, and sometimes some of the people asking the questions, the technical questions, are users themselves. And because those were the kinds of questions that were frequently getting closed, I thought we had a pretty good case for carving out a special place. Now, I think what happened was, and I kind of got some information from them that eventually they were like, wow, you guys, if I remember correctly, I want to say like we were in the top 4% of their sites as far as traffic. Mm-hmm. Now, StackExchange they're very, it's very open source. It feels very almost non-profity, but they are a for-profit company, right? So they make money, and I think they do it in a very good way by providing a great platform for free, great service, and they make money with I think pretty much with ads. And the reason they're ads usually for job postings or for hosting your CV. The reason that they make good money doing that is because they really have a really high quality applicant pool. So they definitely were interested in having Magento around, and we sat there. Once it made, we were like, wow, we did this in a month, and then we sat there for a year and a half. And like we just kept like, what do we need? But the thing was, we were getting so much. All of our activity was like a lot of new questions and new users, and the stuff wasn't high quality, and it was really hard for the core. I think the core answers to keep up. If I remember correctly, like our answer rate was pretty bad at first, and that's percentage of questions which have answers. And the definition of that in the StackExchange model is not necessarily that the OP, whoever asks the question, that they have accepted an answer. It is that's one way, but another way is that there has been an answer posted to a question and with one upvote. So you might have a question with 3 upvotes, none of them have been accepted by OP. I'm sorry, a question with 3 answers, none of which have been accepted by the OP. But if one of those has an accepted answer, eventually, like every night, something goes through and says, okay, yeah, that's considered an answered question. So that was really low, and that was a function of, I think, just sheer volume. It was also a function of just not enough people that are there to go through and just go and clicking, yes, this question works for me, have an upvote. And upvotes are free, people, but they should only be used when they're valid. So that was the origination of Mage Stack Day. Was really like, how can we move these numbers? Sorry to bring it all the way home. I'm famous for just like dragging on, but that's why the first Mage Stack Day came along. Was like, let's have a focused effort to clean the site, as as Phil said, and we had to do it twice, right? We had to have 2 of them before the site would actually, eventually the numbers moved, and I think we also maybe hit a critical mass. I don't know, Anna, if you've seen any of that, Anna, if you've seen any of that in your in your sort of data spelunking, but it seems like we have more. We've maintained this stuff without having to have these things like every month.
Right. So thanks, Ben, for summing this up. I remember it was really an exciting time when the Magento platform was on Area 51, and I remember we've been all eager to post like valid questions to justify we need a separate platform for this. That brings me to my first question, like to all of you. What do you think is most important for new people that arrive on Magento StackExchange in terms of how do you ask a good question, but also in terms of how do we deal with new users? Who wants to go first?
Pick me this
Marius.
time. Okay, then I will bet you that 99% of people that don't never ask questions on Stack Overflow and come and ask a question here will screw it up. I did it. I did it. You can search for my first question and see the the revision history. Yeah, the best approach to do is to educate before destroying content. I mean, well, there are a lot of people that can edit questions right now that have a lot of reputation points. Just edit the question or post a comment explaining what's wrong with the question, how to improve it. Of course, it can be closed, but the user can come in and post the same question but in a different format. And in order to encourage them, we have to offer answers, not just destroy questions.
Mm.
We did that before because we needed the percentage. Now we shouldn't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Over.
So maybe Raphael, you've been like pretty new to the platform. You just started a few months ago. Maybe you can tell a bit of what was challenging when you started with the platform.
Yes, so I don't know, to me it feels like maybe the questions should not be closed like for the first 48 hours. Like, problem is sometimes like the OP doesn't even have the time to edit the question, and the question is like all closed by the reviewers. I guess that's kind of a problem, because even if like moderators or active users like me try to educate the first posters to improve their questions, sometimes people tend to go through the review list and flag the post as marked to be closed or stuff like that. I don't know if it's possible, but I guess for first question with new users, I reckon a good thing would be to like protect the question so it can be closed for the first 48 hours, so the OP has the ability to edit the question if the question is unclear or too broad. That's the idea I came up with. I don't know if it's possible. I don't know the way I see things. And I guess that would help a lot, because sometimes first posters, they post their first question, and the question is closed in the next, I don't know, 5 hours, and I don't know, it's frustrating for them. That's the idea I came up with. I don't know if it's possible.
May I say something about that?
Sure.
I don't want to defend fast closing that's sometimes happening, but I don't really think it's a good idea to protect questions from being closed. Actually, the questions aren't immediately closed; they are put on hold if you first vote close. So the person who asks has the chance to improve them, to edit them, so that they have the chance to be reopened again. What's important from our perspective is that we should let them know why we put the questions on hold. So maybe not only mark the default reason if it's not obvious, and add a bit of explanation, because many new users are not familiar with the rules, and even we are not sure about the rules, so that's quite normal. And there are, of course, also users, like drive-by users, who drop an error message or a quick question and never will come back if they don't get an answer right away that they can use. But you don't really know from the first view what kind of user it is, so give them the benefit of the doubt, or how do you call it? Well, you can close the question, but explain what has to be improved, and if they do, the question will be nominated for reopening. If not, it stays closed and will be forgotten, and that's okay, I think.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I want to say that the on hold, that whole on hold action that came along while Magento Stack Exchange was in beta. And actually, there's something that's not there that used to be there that I miss as a moderator, which is the ability. I was lucky that I've been moderating since the beginning, so I've seen kind of some of these changes over time. And it used to be that if you closed a question without dropping in a comment, it actually became auto-flagged by the software, and it showed up again in the queue. And the reason for the flag was that it was closed without comment, because I think Stack had noticed that's not a very good user experience. And I'm guessing that was actually in some way that was kind of supplanted by this on hold status that came about. And I do like that. But as a moderator, I don't know, Marius, I think I've seen you do the same thing. Probably Marius, in addition, by the way, he gets all these points for answers and for for his answers and for his questions. But he is also exponentially more active than any of your other moderators. So he's the all-around superstar.
Come on,
so
just shut up. Get to the point.
I know you have dropped in. I've seen you drop in, like, hey, basically, welcome to Stack Exchange. This is wrong for this reason. You don't say this. I've written this, 1,000 times to 1,000 users, but I prefer. I'm just putting out there. I prefer, most of the time, I will drop in a comment if I'm putting someone's question on hold and say, hey, welcome to Stack Exchange. We need more. And usually, it's just a request for more content. Usually, there's just not enough information in the question to be able to give an answer, and so I rather than just say, oh, this is no good, just on hold, close. I like to say, hey, go ahead and think about, we need this much more information, maybe some error messages, and edit your question, and then we can reopen it.
By the way, I guess you both already have some default comments for copy and paste. If you do so, I opened a thread on Meta to collect all these comments, add them, so others can use them too. It's not only for you, for everybody who's watching. Go to Meta, read more on Meta, participate on Meta. We have far too little discussion going on there.
So, hi, finally Phillip managed to join our discussion.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you. Well, hold on, I can't see you. Oh, that's better. I can see you now.
We decided to start without you. But
Please, I'm glad you did.
You were the one starting this discussion on Twitter.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I had something else come up, so I apologize for that.
No problem. So you maybe want to explain your tweet a bit and how it all started?
Yeah, sure. First of all, thank you, Sander and everybody for kind of putting this together. And I know I'm the one who kind of started this the larger discussion, but I feel like this is a discussion that comes up every 3 months or so, especially on Stack Exchange. We have so many people involved, and so many people with different I would say just different levels of attention. Some people are very, very attentive in the review queue. Some people are spend a lot of time answering. Obviously, congratulations to Marius on his 100,000 points. That's an incredible feat, an incredible accomplishment, and it should be that should be an inspiration to us all. I know it's an inspiration to me. So for some time since the beginning of the as we graduated and we got out of the beta phase on Magento Stack Exchange, and as the moderator elections were happening, since that time I've been very invested in looking at the overall health of the site, not just from a review queue close or open rate, which I think was the sort of the larger meta discussion that we have been having for 3 years, which is how do we get a better answer rate on the site. What I was starting to notice was the same kinds of issues started to sort of pile up, where questions that, in my opinion, were easily answerable but were being dismissed because of some sort of terse understanding of the rules, where the rules would say something like, any support of a third-party library or third-party module, anything that's third-party whatsoever, any support of that is considered to be off-topic. And I've raised the question many times. We don't have to rehash it for the 20th time in Meta, but I think we've had a lot of discussions on what is on-topic and what is off-topic. And so I have sort of made it my little mission and my sort of pet peeve that when I see there are people that are, that we deal with that are repeat offenders, and they're sort of belligerent in their approach in trying to either get us to write code or to do their work for them. And I understand that those types of issues are toxic for our community. The thing I'm more concerned about is when we apply a very strict approach to that third-party rule, when any mention of a third party whatsoever can get a question closed. For instance, I've seen questions to the tune of, I have a, actually the question that sort of sparked the debate between Sonder and I on Twitter was, I have a JavaScript library that's provided by a third party, but I want to include it through a require statement in Magento 2. And to me, this is as on topic as it gets in Magento, because the tagline for Magento for 5 years was the e-commerce platform for growth, and we celebrated the openness of Magento and the extensibility of Magento. And we as a community have talked a lot about how to do things the right way and how to do things the wrong way, and we've tried to evangelize those best practices. So when I see questions like that from a user with poor reputation, when I see that get closed by inside of 5 minutes by 5 closed votes all saying third party support, I sort of scratch my head, because if you sort of read the question a little more closely, it was the larger question was, what is the right way to include a JavaScript file on Magento 2? Because essentially, like, I know Magento 1, it's through a layout XML. I don't know how to use require in Magento 2. That's the larger discussion. But any mention I've seen for some time, any mention of a third party will get it closed. And so my larger question was, I can go to sleep with nothing in the review queue and wake up in the morning, and if Marius is busy, then we're going to have 80 questions sitting in the review queue, all have 4 closed votes waiting for a 5th person to weigh in. And my question really to the whole community is, what do we want to be? Do we want to police the site and try to maintain a percentage answer rate, and at all costs, no matter what? Or is our goal to try to be inclusive, to try to make newcomers feel welcome, to try to help them understand how to format their questions, to try to get them to be good participators in our community? Because I get the feeling when I go back and look through, the large number of questions that are sort of insta-closed, if you will, are due to what I would understand is like a newcomer not really understanding the purpose of the site. And a lot of times it's a close with no redirection. We don't redirect them over to community.magento.com to post their question on the forums. We don't, there's not a whole lot of answers or guidance being given other than the closed vote reason. And I, as a newcomer, I've been guilty of this too. If you go back and look at 2013, some of my first questions, even though I had 4,000 reputation on Stack Overflow at some point, I didn't grasp initially what was on and off topic in StackExchange for Magento, and I was guilty of this too. Asking questions like why whatever happened to x.commerce, and at that time nobody really knew, right? Nobody had heard like what was going on with the fabric. They weren't having an annual event that year. This is 2012, I think, or I'm sorry, 2013. There had been like radio silence for Magento for over 18 months. And it was more of a question, but it's not an on-topic question, and unless it was somebody from Magento, there couldn't really be a canonical answer. And that was like closed by Ben Lasani, and he and I had some words over it because I thought it was a pertinent question, but he quickly redirected me to what the right way to frame a question like that would be and who the right and correct audience is. And I learned from it, and I'm now a very high participator in StackExchange. And if we all had that approach to try to be teachable in the way that we approach questions that we consider to be off topic, where people feel redirected and welcomed, and feel as if they're still positively participating, then I'm okay with us closing questions. But if you look through the history of and the evolution of Stack Overflow, and this comes up all the time on Stack Overflow, one of the main tenets of moderation, and if you read the hand guide to moderation and a theory of moderation, I think by Jeff Atwood, the theory of moderation is be very, close as a very last resort. The close method should not be retained either by a moderator or by people with the privilege to vote for a close. It should be used as a last resort because all other attempts to rectify either the phrasing of the question or the topic of the question or whatever is problem with it, everything else has failed. All diplomacy has failed. This is our final resort. And so that would be, if I could redirect us on Mage Stack Day to be more focused as a community on answering questions and less focused on trying to maintain an answer ratio, then I think, because I do think that there's the sense, and I've heard it from some people, that we have to maintain some 70 or 80% answer ratio. And my message to the community would be, and I think Ben and Marius and I are all in agreement here, is that we accomplished that goal. We graduated. We're out of beta. We are a massive portion of the StackExchange network now. We have, Marius himself has reached over 4 million different people with answers all over the globe. I've reached almost 2 million with my answers. We're reaching massive amounts of people, and the way that we're going to be most effective is to try to maintain that answer rate, not by closing out old questions or trying to find, using the search to find, everything that has M2EE in it. And instead, if we could use our powers to get in at least 2 somewhat canonical answers on every single question, 2 answers counts as an answered question, whether they accept or not. So that's my approach. And I'm not trying to be. I sort of said it in a frustrated tone, and I certainly wouldn't ever blame you guys and Mage Stack Day and the amazing effort that you've all brought, and now award-winning Magento Masters for the type of community organization you're doing. But I do think that you can't control everybody in the community and everything that they do. And so I want us to really just focus as a moderation team on making this a positive engagement and trying to focus on being helpful and focus on us, instead of creating a rift of people who are in the know and people who are not in the know, trying to create a culture of teaching people so that they can become teachers themselves. And so if we can do that better, then I think we're going to have a healthier community. Not to say that we're toxic, but I think some attitudes can brew out of what is the other thing too, which I think is certainly up for discussion, is that there are some elements of best practice that I think are very important when developing. For instance, a good example of that is the use of Object Manager directly in Magento 2 is one of those core tenets of this is not a thing that you should probably do. And what I don't want to see us doing is brigading on StackExchange to people who suggest that as a potential answer, and all 15 of us that are active every day go and downvote all at once and shame that person into oblivion that they did it the wrong way. I'd like to see us try to encourage people to do things the right way through positive reinforcement and not negative. So those are the kinds of things that I think we can do better. That doesn't mean that we're doing that we're wrong or we're bad, but I think we can be better. We can always be better. So this is the thing I want us to focus on now. And that, as a moderation team, Marius and Ben and I have discussed it, and I think we're all on the same page. I don't know if, Ben, you have anything you'd like to add at that point.
So before someone else continues with their statements, we have about 6 or 7 minutes left.
Phil, you and I have single-handedly filibustered this thing. No pun intended.
No, it's really great to have you 3 here as our 3 moderators. That's really, really cool. So maybe Fabian, Marius, You want to add something?
No, I have nothing to add. My lawyer, Phillip, just said everything that was to say, so I rest my
Since
case.
you all already agree, I
You
will say
prepared for
thank you.
this.
I will say thank you, Philip, for this great play. And let me just say I wholeheartedly agree that we need to shift our focus away from the answer rate. That's something I really wanted to say today as well, that the last major stack days were important for that, to get out of beta. And now we are graduated, and this requirement isn't there anymore, and we don't need to focus on this, so we don't need to do the same things repeatedly again as last times. And it's a great chance to to rethink the direction the site is going. And you did a great job with your starting the discussion and your plädoyer, and I don't have much to add to it right now.
I think in general, I took it all to heart. I think we are in a place now where the time, it's really time to nurture content, make sure that we're looking after the new people coming in, because what you see, there is just kind of looking at our forebears, looking at the examples of the sites that have come before us, including Stack Overflow. It's a dynamic community that's going to evolve, and that culture will evolve over time, just as Magento StackExchange is a different community, today than it was 2 years ago. It'll be different again in 2 more years. But I think some of the core tenets remain the same, which is just to welcome newcomers so that they can be the old timers in the future, and instead of just someone who shows up once and gets their question dismissed out of hand with no feedback and they never return. So kindness towards content and people, that's what we need to kind of sustain Magento StackExchange. And there's no doubt, as a company, so the corporate perspective on Magento StackExchange is that it's absolutely vital to the ecosystem, and we'll always be here to support it.
That was a great final statement. Any other final remarks from anyone?
I do want to add one more thing, and it's that we're not always going to get everything right? We're all human, and I have every bit as much to play a part in if you go back and look, I've not censored myself. Go back and look at my older questions. Go back and look at some of my older comments, and I'm happy to say that when I go back and I look back in time, I feel like I've grown since that time. But I'm not going to go back and change history. And I used to recommend that people load models and loops, and now it's my duty and my goal in life to make sure that people don't do that. So I feel like we are all growing. Not all of us are going to get stuff perfect every time. And so I would welcome anybody. And this is a very difficult thing to say because I know you're gonna hold me to it. But I would welcome anybody when they feel like when I'm out of line, or when I've said too much, or when I've expressed frustration instead of gratitude. I would like to, to extend to anybody to speak into my attitude and my behavior. And I'm sure it's the same for all the moderators. I want us to be approachable, and I want you to tell me what you think I'm doing right and what you think I'm doing wrong, and tell me when I've overstepped. Because I think we need approachability in the community. I don't want to have people sitting on pedestals that are, for lack of a better word, the titans, the titans that are unapproachable. We should all be have a very, very flat community. Every single person is important. We're all necessary. And so I really just want to invite everybody to please, tell us as a moderation team what you think we're doing right and what we're doing wrong, because not all of us are going to sit for a moderation at the next election. All 3 of us may get turned over. Who knows? Raphael seems to be contributing a whole lot these days, and there's a lot of people that are very passionate that I think could take up the helm and run it very well. So I would love to have other people give us passion feedback, you know. So there you go.
Yeah. I think we could just go on like 2 more hours with this, but unfortunately, we'll have to close this. So I thank you all for joining. It was really, really cool to have you all here. Like a lot of Magento StackExchange power. And in a few minutes, we'll hear an announcement from Meet Magento about a new exciting event and why they're sponsoring us. So yeah. Don't leave. Don't leave. Stay for a few more minutes. And after this, we'll have a talk from Talash about security, taking a microscope and a periscope to platform vulnerability. So there's a lot more to look forward to. And for now, it's just me saying thank you and bye to all of you. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks,
Bye.
everybody.
Bye.